talking about the axolotl anatomy with Axolotl the Walking Fish by Courtney Taylor and Cecilia Varvel. Let's start with some background information on them. Their species name is the Embrystona mexicanum. They are commonly known as the walking fish. They are native to Mexico. They are found in streams, lakes, up high in the mountains near Mexico City. Although they are fully aquatic and appear as fish, they are actually amphibians and specifically salamanders. They are unusual because they reach adulthood without going through metamorphosis, which we'll talk about a little later. Let's dive into the characteristics of axolotls. They have a lifespan of 10 to 15 years. They get about 6 to 18 inches long. They have a wide variety of colors that can be from light pink to black in the wild, and then in captivity they can be a wide range. They produce 200 to over 1,000 eggs in a single spawning. They are carnivores, so they eat only meat. They mostly eat bugs, worms, and small fish. They even eat other axolotls that are smaller in size than they are. I have a video of an axolotl eating its prey whole without chewing. And so that video just showed of them eating the prey whole. This is because they have cone teeth, so they are not able to rip and chew the meat, so they have to open their mouth wide and swallow their prey whole. They're also fully aquatic and stay in the water their whole lives and never move onto land. Now let's talk about the evolution, how they, where they evolved. The axolotl is part of the mole salamanders, and these salamanders are exclusive to the North America and in the genus Embrystoma. Axolotls are very closely related to the tiger salamanders, which is in this bottom picture. They both have similar juvenile stages. They both are fully aquatic during this stage. However, the tiger salamander does morph into adulthood and transition onto land, while the axolotl stays in the juvenile state its whole life, which will be talked about a little later. As you can see in these two pictures, this top one of the tiger salamander is in its juvenile state, and this picture of an axolotl is in its adulthood. So as you can see, they have similar gills, fins, legs. The only really difference is the axolotl stays in that point, and the salamander still transitions into a fully on-land species. Next, we are going to be talking about the respiratory system. The axolotl, of course, remains aquatic their entire life. They are really cool because they have both lungs and gills at the same time. Although the lungs are functional, they are very tiny and they're not often used. It mostly uses the fancy feathery gills to breathe underwater. The feathers that decorate the gills also have a role to increase the surface area to allow more gas to flow in. Axolotls really only use their lungs to breathe when oxygen is too low in the water, as they live in higher altitudes, but most of the time they are able to just use their gills to be able to breathe.
So now we will be looking at the basic anatomy of axolotl. Its skeleton is comprised mostly of cartilage. What is special about them is that they exhibit neoteny, meaning that they retain juvenile characteristics into adulthood. Their skeleton structure is very similar to that of salamanders. However, they don't fully develop and stay in a stage right before metamorphosis. The most important aspects of their anatomy are their dorsal crest and their gills. They have this dorsal crest, as seen on this picture, and on this crest there are no ribs. Instead, there are costal grooves. These grooves are used for thermoregulation and help the skin stay moist, which overall allows respiration to stay efficient for cutaneous respiration in adults. Axolotls sport distinctive feathery frills at the side of their heads, as seen in this diagram labeled gills. Although they look like a decorative headdress, these fringes are actually the axolotl's external gills. These are called rami, and they're full of capillaries that are used in gas exchange. Their gills pull water through this structure so capillaries can extract oxygen from the water and use it in their bodies. Now we're going to be talking about neoteny. The definition of this, as we spoke in the last slide, was that adults retain traits seen only in juveniles of similar species. So they reach sexual maturity without undergoing metamorphosis. And this is interesting because they never lose their gills, tail fins, larval skin coloration, or their white heads. There is a mystery in why the axolotl are neotenous, and it's suggested that their species was developed in waters with insufficient iodine levels. This is important because iodine is important in production of thyroxine, which is a hormone that regulated growth. Another theory is that water temperatures could have also affected and prevented this hormone. So it's also known as the elixir of life, or close to it, just due to the fact that you stay young forever. So it's a super cool trait. For the next slide, we're going to talk about the regeneration abilities. So axolotl can regenerate its limbs, spinal cord, heart, and other organs. They're famous for this ability to regenerate their limbs within weeks, and even possible to grow their heart, brain, and spine. Young axolotl can replace a lost limb in less than a month, whereas older axolotl takes several months sometimes. Other vertebrae can regenerate parts of their bodies, such as humans, but we're limited to skin and liver cells. So for the steps of regeneration as seen as this diagram is that A deals with limb loss, B is a blood clot and create a wound epidermis. C is the cells of the wound epidermis grow and divide, and cells underneath the epidermis divide rapidly as well and form the blastema. D, the cells that make up the blastema de-differentiate and become similar to stem cells and grow and multiply to eventually develop bone or skin cells. E, as the blastoma and its cells continue to divide, the growth flattens and resembles a perfect copy of the lost limb. And F, redevelopment. While the ability to regrow an arm is out of reach for humans, studying the axolotl genome could reveal genetic methods of regenerating tissue that could be used in medical research. So I'm going to show a video of the axolotl.
Works like this. After the amputation, the cells at the site of the amputation lose their identity. So instead of being skin cells or blood cells, they become similar to stem cells, called pluripotent cells. And they're able to make any cell or tissue that the body would need to repair itself. In this case, they use the pluripotent cells to generate all the cells and tissues needed to create new, perfect limbs. This phenomenon is...
So now we're going to do a little true or false questions. So axolotls are not salamanders. So you could pause the video and answer slowly and answer whenever you get the answer. So it's false. Axolotls are part of salamanders, salamander family, and they are just a a different species of them. 2. Axolotls have more than one way to breathe. That's true. They have 4 different ways to do their respiration. They have cutaneous respiration, they have lungs, they have gills, and they also have buccal cavity respiration. Number 3, axolotl go through metamorphosis at a young age. True or false? It's going to be false. They don't go through metamorphosis at all, and that's described through neoteny. 4, axolotl can regenerate limbs only when they're young. That's going to be false as well. Axolotl can regenerate limbs any age of their life. It just will slow down when they get older. And that's all for our presentation. Here's our sources. And if you have any questions, you can comment and we might get back to you.